need to tell you what happened to me 3 nights ago. I need to write it down while it's still fresh, while I can still remember the exact sequence of events before my mind tries to rationalize it all away. Because that's what minds do, right? They smooth over the impossible edges, filling in gaps with logic, trying to convince you that what you experienced couldn't have been real. But I know what I saw, and it was real. I'm writing this in my apartment with every light on, my back to the wall so I can see both the door and the window. I haven't slept in 22 hours, and every time I close my eyes, I see it. Every time I hear footsteps in the hallway outside, my whole body locks up. Let me start at the beginning. 3 nights ago, I was driving home from work. Completely ordinary evening. I'm a medical transcriptionist. I work the late shift at a hospital in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I live about 40 minutes outside the city in a small rental house near the reservation. The drive is long, but I've done it 100 of times. Highway 89 South and a series of smaller roads that wind through the high desert scrubland, sage and juniper, and red rock formations that look like sleeping giants in the dark. It was a Tuesday, November, cold but not freezing, maybe 45 degrees. I remember because I had the heat on in my car, that dry, forced air that makes your sinuses ache under pressure. The radio was playing some classical rock station. I had the volume pretty low. It was Tom Petty's Free Falling. I was tired but not exhausted, looking forward to getting home and heating up leftovers, and maybe watching something mindless on Netflix before bedtime. The highway was empty. That's normal for that time of night. Around 11:30 p.m., most people do not commute this route after dark. It's just long-haul truckers and the occasional local. The road is straight for long stretches, then curves around through shallow valleys. No streetlights once you leave the city limits. Just your headlights carving a tunnel through the absolute darkness of the desert night. I have been driving for maybe 20 minutes when I noticed the headlights behind me. Not unusual, like I said. There are other cars on the road. Something made me notice these particular lights. Maybe it was the distance. They stayed exactly the same distance behind me, not closing in or falling back, just constantly there, lingering. As I checked my speedometer, I was doing 65. This was 5 over the speed limit, which is what everyone does on this stretch. Car behind me matched my speed perfectly. Still, not that weird though, right? Maybe they were using me as a pace car, or maybe they were on cruise control at the same speed. I turned up the radio a little and tried not to think about it, but I kept checking my rearview mirror out of suspicion. The headlights were bright, too bright, or maybe they just seemed that way because everything else was so dark. Possibly they had their high beams on, though that would be rude on an empty highway. I couldn't see the vehicle itself, just 2 points of white light, unwavering and following. I slowed down to 60, and the lights slowed down. I sped up to 70, and the lights sped up. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Okay, this is weird, but there's still an explanation, right? Maybe it was someone I knew from work, heading in the same direction. Or maybe they recognized my car and were just following along. People do strange things when they are bored on long drives. The highway curved left. I took the curve, my headlights sweeping across red rock and scrub brush. In my rearview mirror, the lights behind me disappeared for a moment as they went around the curve, then reappearing at the same distance and same brightness. As I reached for my phone, I was met with no signal, but that's also normal out here, as there are dead zones all along this route. I'd get signal back once I got closer to my home. The radio crackled with static, and Tom Petty's voice distorted into something. It sounded almost like words, but was not. I reached over and changed the station to country music, and the signal was clear. Even though I dislike country music strongly, I left it there. Another curve, and this one to the right, and the lights followed me. I tried to see what kind of vehicle it was. Maybe a truck or SUV, or possibly a sedan like mine. But the headlights were far too bright, and there was too much darkness between us, just those points of light burning into my rearview mirror. My exit was coming up in about 10 miles, a small road that branched off the highway, unmarked except for a faded mile marker. Most people wouldn't even notice it. I'd take that road, then another smaller road, then a dirt road, straight to my home. The last 5 minutes were completely isolated. No other houses, and no traffic. Nothing but the desert and the occasional coyote. I started to hope the car behind me would keep going on the highway. That this was all just a coincidence. That I was being paranoid because I was tired, and it was late, and the desert at night does something to your perception. Makes everything feel more ominous than it really is. As the exit appeared in my headlights, I didn't signal, I just took it, turning right onto the smaller road without warning. In my rearview mirror, the headlights turned with me. This time my heart kicked into a higher gear, and I tried to tell myself that it was just a coincidence, that everything was still fine. Maybe, just maybe, they were going the same way, or maybe they lived out here too. There were a few scattered properties in this area, not many, but enough. The smaller road was narrower and more winding. It followed the contours of the land instead of cutting through it. My headlights swept across sage and rock and the occasional juniper tree, twisted and ancient. Pavement was cracked, patches in place with asphalt that didn't quite match. And the car behind me, it stayed exactly the same distance back. As I sped up, 75 on a road that probably shouldn't be driven faster than 50, my car rattled over the uneven pavement, and the lights behind me sped up too. I slowed down to 50, and the lights slowed down. I said some pretty nasty things out loud, and my voice sounded strange in the enclosed space of the car. Far too loud and too frightened. I tried my phone again, but still I had no signal. The radio crackled again, and the country song cut out. For a moment there was just static, and a voice came through, a woman's, familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. It said, "Where are you? I've been trying to call." It was my sister's voice, but that was impossible. My sister lives in California. We talk maybe once a month. She wouldn't be calling me at 11:45 p.m., and definitely not on a Tuesday. And even if she was, the call wouldn't come through the radio. Something is wrong, and I'm beginning to feel it. I punched the power button on the radio, and it cut to silence, my hands visibly shaking now. In the rearview mirror, the headlights were closer, not by much, maybe 10 feet, but they had been maintaining that exact distance for miles, and now they were gaining. The next turn was coming up, the dirt road that led to my house, another 3 miles of up-paved track through absolute wilderness. No one else lived down that road. It was just me and the desert and whatever animals came out at night. I didn't want to lead this car directly to my home, but where else could I really go? Back to the highway? That was almost 20 minutes behind me now. Forward to what? There was nothing ahead except for my house, and then more empty desert. I made a quick decision. I'd drive past my turnoff, keep going on this road until it eventually connected to another highway. About 30 miles ahead, it would take me an hour out of my way, but I'd be back in civilization. I could stop at a gas station, call the police, and wait until this car, this person, whoever they were, got bored and left. My turnoff appeared in my headlights, a gap in the sage, 2 tire tracks leading off into darkness. I kept driving straight. In my rearview mirror, the headlights turned onto my road. I slammed on the brakes. My car skidded to a stop in the middle of the empty road. I stared into the rearview mirror, and my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The headlights had turned onto my road, the road I had not taken, the road I deliberately avoided. But that meant the car behind me wasn't following me. It was going where I was going. It knew where I lived. I sat there in the middle of the road, my engine idling, and tried to process everything, tried to make sense of everything. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe someone else lived down that road, and I just didn't know about it. Maybe there was a new house or a new property, something I previously didn't notice. But I'd lived here for 2 years, and I drove down that road every single day. There was nothing down there except for my home. I put my car in reverse and backed up till I could see down my road. The headlights were there, about a quarter mile in, stopped, just sitting there, waiting. But for what? For me to come home? I put the car back in drive and kept going forward, away from my house and toward the distant highway. My hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel. My breath was coming too fast. I tried to slow it down. I needed to think rationally. Someone was messing with me. That was the only explanation that I had. Someone from work, maybe, possibly playing a prank. Or someone who'd seen me on the road and decided to mess with me because they were bored or drunk or just cruel people. It happened. People did weird things. This wasn't the first time. But that did not explain the radio. That did not explain my sister's voice. I drove for 10 minutes, 15. The road stretched ahead, empty and dark. I kept checking the rearview mirror. No headlights, nothing behind me. I started to relax, started to think maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I imagined the worst case scenario when the reality was much more mundane. I'd go to the next town and find a motel, sleep there for the night. In the morning, everything would seem less frightening. My phone buzzed. I nearly drove off the road. I grabbed my phone from the passenger seat. One bar of signal and a text message from my sister. Are you okay? I had the worst feeling. Call me when you can. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I pulled over to the side of the road and stared at the message. It was sent 3 minutes ago. A normal message from my sister, who sometimes got anxious and checked in on me. But I heard her voice on the radio 20 minutes ago when there was no signal. I called her and it rang, then went to voicemail. As I tried again, the same thing. I texted her back that I am fine. Why did you call earlier? The response came immediately. I didn't call, just texted. Are you sure you're okay? I stared at the message for a while. She didn't call, but I heard her voice, clear as anything on the radio. I looked up at the road ahead again. Empty. I looked into the rearview mirror. Headlights, far back, maybe half a mile. But there, 2 points of white light in absolute darkness. I whispered no. I put my car in the drive and accelerated. I sped all the way up to 80, and the car shook on the rough pavement. But I did not care. I just needed to get away from those lights. They stayed half a mile back, perfectly consistent. I drove for another 10 minutes at 80 miles per hour, my heart trying to break through my ribs. The lights never got closer, never fell back, but always there and following. Then I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. Ahead of me, in my headlights, another car was parked on the side of the road facing me, its headlights off. I slowed down. I had to. I couldn't just blow past it at 80 miles per hour. What if someone was broken down? What if they needed my help? But as I got closer, I could see the car clearly in my headlights. It was the same make and model as mine, the same color, and the same dent in the front bumper for where I'd hit a stopping cart 2 months ago. It was my car. I stopped. I just stopped in the middle of the road, maybe 50 feet from the parked car. My car, the exact one, parked on the side of the road facing me. In the rearview mirror, the headlights behind me were getting closer. I looked at the car ahead, and I looked at the lights behind. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel, shaking so badly I could barely hold on. This wasn't possible. This was not real. I had to have been hallucinating. I was having a breakdown. The headlights on the parked car turned on. High beams, blinding. Threw up my hand to shield my eyes, and through my fingers I could see the silhouette in the driver's seat. The person sitting there and watching me. The headlights behind me were much closer now, maybe 100 feet back. I was boxed in, trapped between two impossible things. The driver's door of the parked car opened. Someone stepped out. I couldn't see them clearly. The headlights were far too bright. Just a dark shape, human size, standing beside my car, the exact vehicle. They started walking toward me. I slammed the car into reverse and floored it. The engine screamed. I shot backward, straight toward the headlights behind me. I didn't care. I just needed to get away from the thing walking toward me. The headlights behind me swerved off the road. I cranked the wheel and spun the car around in a wild J-turn that nearly flipped me into the ditch. Then I was facing back the way I had come, and I accelerated forward, past where the car behind me had swerved off into the desert. I didn't look to see if it was still there. I just drove back toward my turnoff, back toward my house, because there was nowhere else to go. The highway ahead was blocked by my own car. Impossible. That's insane. But really blocked. And whatever was behind me is now still there. I could feel it. I took the turn onto my dirt road, going 40 miles per hour. My car fishtailed into the loose gravel. I fought for control and got it back and kept going. Dust billowed up behind me in the headlights, thick and red. My house appeared ahead, small, adobe, one story. Lights were off, exactly as I left it that morning. As I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine, I grabbed my phone, my keys, and my bag and ran to the front door. My hands were shaking so badly, I dropped the keys twice before I got to the door to unlock it. Inside, lights on and door locked. Deadbolt. I stood in my living room, breathing hard, and tried to understand what just happened. My phone rang. I looked at my screen. My sister. I answered it. Hey. Her voice was normal, concerned. You didn't call me back. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm home. I'm fine. You sure? You sound weird. Just tired. Been a long drive. Okay. Well, call me tomorrow. I love you. I love you too. As I hung up, I stared at the phone. That was my sister, real and normal, not the voice on the radio. I went to the window and looked out at the driveway. My car sat there, covered in dust from the dirt road. Normal and real. I checked every room in the house, my bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, and closets, but I didn't find anything. I made myself some tea with my hands shaking and sat on the couch. Tried to rationalize what had happened. Maybe stress or exhaustion. Maybe I had fallen asleep at the wheel and dreamed the entire thing. Maybe I had some kind of episode, but I could still feel the adrenaline in my system. Could still see my car parked on the road ahead of me. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch with all the lights on, watching the windows and listening for sounds outside. Nothing happened. When the sun came up, I went outside, looked at my car, normal. I checked the odometer. It matched what I remembered. I looked for the dent in the front bumper, and there it was. I drove to work that day. The highway was normal, empty. No cars following me. No impossible things. But that night, when I drove home, I saw something that made me pull over and vomit on the side of the road. There were tire tracks leading off the main road onto my dirt road. Fresh tracks from the night before. But not just my tracks. There were two sets, both the same width, both the same tread pattern, and both from my car. I followed them with my eyes, and they ran parallel for a while. Then one set veered off into the desert. I got out of my car and walked into the scrub, following the tracks. They led to a clearing about 100 yards from the road. There was nothing there, just disturbed earth, and in the center of a clearing, a pile of something. As I got closer, My legs felt like they weren't connected to my body. It was clothes, my clothes, the outfit that I had been wearing 2 days ago. Jeans, a blue sweater, and my work shoes. They were arranged in a human shape, arms spread, legs together, like someone had been wearing them and then just stepped out of them, left them there in the desert. I backed away and ran back to my car, drove home with my foot pressed to the floor. That was 2 nights ago. Last night, I didn't go to work. I called in sick, stayed in my house with the doors locked and the lights on. And around midnight, I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window. It was my car again, the same make, the same model, the same color, and the same dent. But my car was in the driveway. I could see it from the window. There were two of them now. The driver's door of the second car opened, and someone stepped out. I couldn't see their face in the darkness, but they moved just like me. They walked like me. They went to my front door and knocked. I stood frozen in my living room, staring at the door. "I know you're in there," a voice said. It was my voice, too, exactly my voice. "I just want to talk." I couldn't answer it, though. "I've been trying to reach you," the voice continued. "On the radio, on the phone. I've been trying to tell you something important." Silence. "You need to let me in. I am you. I'm the real you. You're the one who's wrong. You're the one who doesn't belong." My hands were over my mouth at this point. I was biting down on my knuckles to keep from screaming. "I know you're scared. I know this doesn't make sense. But I've been where you are. I've been confused too. It's okay. Just open the door. Let me help you understand." I backed away from the door into the kitchen. I grabbed a knife from the drawer, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. "I know about the clothes in the desert. I know you found them. Those were mine. I left them there when I changed, when I became this, when I became you." The doorknob rattled. "I've been practicing, learning how to be you, how to move like you, talk like you. I'm almost perfect now, almost ready." At this point, the rattling stopped. "But I need one more thing. I need to see you, face to face. I need to study the way you look when you're afraid, the way your eyes move, the way you breathe. Those are the hardest parts to get right." I heard footsteps on the porch this time, moving to the window. "Let me see you, just for a moment, then I'll go. I promise." A face appeared in the window. My family. My face appeared in the window. My face, exactly my face. Same nose, same mouth, but the expression was wrong. Too wide and too eager, like someone had learned to smile by watching videos, but had never actually felt happiness. He pressed his hands against the glass, my hands, the same scars and the same nail polish. "Please, I'm so close. I just need a little more time with you." I ran through the kitchen, into the bedroom, and into the bathroom. I locked the door and climbed into the bathtub and pulled the shower curtain closed, like that would help, like that would protect me from something that wore my face. I heard glass breaking and the window in the living room. Footsteps inside my house. They were slow and searching. "Where are you? I can smell you. You smell like fear, like sweat, like prey." Footsteps got closer in the hallway now. I've been hunting for a long time, longer than you can imagine. I've worn so many faces, so many lives, but yours is special. Yours is perfect, isolated, alone. No one checks on you. No one would notice if you disappear. The bathroom door rattled. I've already been you. I went to your work yesterday, talked to your coworkers. They didn't notice anything wrong. I've been practicing your signal, your signature, your laugh, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking. The door shook violently. I've been in your phone, read your message, read your messages, learned your relationships. I know everything about you, every secret, every fear, every person you love. The door splintered. And soon I'll be you completely, and you'll be nothing. Just clothes in the desert. Just another skin I've worn and discarded. The door broke open at this point, and I screamed. And then I woke up, in my car on the side of the road. The highway stretched ahead of me, empty and dark. The radio was still playing Tom Petty's Free Fallin'. I looked at the clock, 11:47 p.m. I looked in the rearview mirror, no headlights. I checked my phone, no messages, no missed calls. I sat there with the engine idling and tried to understand. Had I fallen asleep? Had I dreamed everything? The chase? The house? The thing wearing my face? But my hands were shaking and my heart was racing, and I could still hear my voice saying those words. Just another skin I've worn and discarded. I drove home slowly and carefully, checking the rearview mirror every few seconds. Nothing followed me. I got home. The house was dark, normal. I unlocked the door, turned on the lights. Everything was exactly as I'd left it the morning. No broken window, no splintered bathroom door. I checked the clearing in the desert. No clothes, no tire, no tire tracks except for my own. It was a dream. It had to be. A stress dream. Nightmare brought on by exhaustion, isolation, and too many late night drives through empty desert. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that kept me awake for 3 days now. When I got to work the next morning, my coworker said something strange. She said, "Hey, you feeling better? You seemed off yesterday." I had been at work yesterday. I hadn't been at work yesterday. I called in sick. What do you mean? I asked. Yesterday, you were here, but you seemed, I don't know, different. Kept staring at people, and you laughed at something that wasn't funny. It was weird. I checked the schedule. I was marked as present. 8 hours, full shift. But I hadn't been there. Someone else was, wearing my face, using my name, doing my job. No one had noticed anything wrong. I'm writing this now because I don't know what else to do. I don't know if I'm losing my mind or if something impossible is happening. I don't know if I dreamed that night or if I lived it. But I know this. When I look in the mirror now, I study my own face. I check for small wrongnesses. I watch the way my mouth moves when I smile. I listen to my own voice and wonder if it sounds exactly right. Because if something can wear my face well enough to well enough to fuel well enough to fool my coworkers, well enough to fool everyone I know, then how do I know I'm really me? How do I know I'm not the thing that's been practicing, the thing that's been learning, the thing that's been hunting? What if I'm the one who left those clothes in the desert? What if I'm the one who broke into my own home? What if I'm the skin that something else is wearing and I just don't know it yet? I look at my hands right now, typing this. They look like my hands. They feel like my hands. But are they? How do I know? How would anyone know? That's what it does, you see. That's how it wins. It doesn't just take your face, it takes your certainty, makes you doubt everything, even yourself, especially yourself. I'm going to post this online. I'm going to tell people what happened, or what I think happened. Maybe someone will read this and understand. Maybe someone will have answers. Or maybe something wearing my face will read this and smile because it knows I've already lost. I'm already doubting, and doubt is how it gets in. If you see me, if you see someone who looks like me, talks like me, and acts like me, ask me something only I would know, something specific, something small, and if I get it wrong, even slightly wrong, even just one detail out of place, run, because it might not be me anymore. It might be the thing that followed me home, the thing that's been practicing, the thing that's almost perfect now. Almost.